Hello, everybody, and welcome to your post-daily news show. I am John Pollock. It is Wednesday, April the 20th. I am John Pollock, and is it a mirage? Is it a hologram? Or is it the real person in living color, Wai Ting, fresh off his trip to San Diego? Welcome back, Mr. Ting.
It is I. Yes, back. You know, a bit of a tan on me, a bit more relaxed in my voice. The cold of the winter, it's completely, at least temporarily, gone from my system, and happy to be back into the grind.
Yeah, we had some snow while you were gone. Welcome back to Toronto. A far cry from California, I'm sure.
Well, you know, come on, like how many beaches and, you know, beautiful sunsets can you really take? I mean, geez.
It gets a little repetitive after a couple nights. It's like, where's my freezing rain? Where's some snow on April the 18th? Total reasonable time for snow to be hitting a city.
Oh, I mean, there's no paradise like hail, you know, in April.
Yes. Well, you are back. I've got to say, having to assume some of your day-to-day duties, man, it is so easy. Like what a simple turnkey operation we've got. That I mean, I was half asleep doing all of this stuff. It was relaxing. It was just seamless.
I have to say, I don't know how you did it, John. Like not just pulling off. I think. First of all, like something I don't think I even personally realized before, because like we have to, you know, with the nature of my wife's work, like we have to kind of book these way in advance, and I don't think I even realized that trying to take vacation now is that much more difficult with these daily news shows, and somehow you managed to pull off every single one of them. With a tremendous roster of guests. So I want to thank every single person. I can't even, I mean, it would be here forever if I tried to name everybody, but thank you everybody who stepped in and provided great insight, not just on these shows, but on our usual review shows as well. So you managed to do all this. The graphics were on point, John. Everything setting up all like you did all that and on top of your usual duties. So the biggest thanks goes to you.
Well, I wanted to keep my messages to a minimum. I think, how many times did I contact you? I think it was under 5 while I was gone.
You can contact me as many times as you want, honestly. But it's, yeah, no, it was, I didn't feel bothered at all, honestly.
Yes. In all seriousness, like it blows my mind how much stuff Wai does that, like there was not a day where it was like I would finish one thing and then suddenly it's something that I have not thought of. Like this mental checklist that I would have to have every single day and reaching out to people. But nonetheless, it was an interesting challenge. I didn't want to make a big deal out about it, but I was extremely sick last week. That Dynamite show I did with Bruce Lord, I have never in the history of doing shows done a show where I literally thought about 10 minutes in, my voice isn't going to make it through this show. Like I was just gulping down water to get through it. That was one of the most difficult shows to get through. So I very much relied on Bruce for that show, but all healed up now. So glad to have you back, Wai.
I mean, I can kind of tell, honestly. I think, you know, listening to
I think
the voice
everyone could tell they were
note.
just being polite, that this guy sounds like garbage.
Yeah, but I mean, no, like so much more respect, I think, for being able to pull off all of this, despite all of that. So again, thank you from me.
Well, let's get into what is going on news-wise. Actually, before we talk about the Raw ratings, have you followed any of like the fallout of Netflix? Have you been following the story at all, or are you still?
I'm not Fallout. No, I'm not really quite aware. Please.
So they had their still getting over this. They reported like a loss of 200,000 subscribers this quarter after they had forecasted an addition of 2.5 million. So, you know, so goes Netflix, so goes everyone. I think they look at any kind of turbulence in Netflix. The result has been like Netflix's stock. It's not just the loss of 200,000 subscribers. The next quarter, they're expecting to lose 2 million subscribers. So there is a bit of a sky is falling immediate reaction to this, which is probably a little bit overblown. Not to say everybody is having that reaction, but the stock tumbled. I think it's down like 37% coming out of this. And the trickle-down effect is that Disney's stock has dropped, Roku's stock has dropped, Discovery, Warner Brothers, their stock has gone down because everyone is looking at, and this is just my theory, everyone is looking at, streaming, the idea that long term this will replace cable and be the dominant form of consumption, that if the worldwide leader is experiencing a negative growth for the first time in over 10 years, then what does that say about streaming as a whole? And again, this is very, very reactionary, just coming out of it, but it's just interesting to look at the result of this. And their explanation is the war in Ukraine, because Netflix was no longer available to those in Russia, and password sharing that they believe they're going to need to curb, which I don't know if, forget 2 million. I don't know if they clamp down on passwords, that 200,000 homes would automatically sign up for Netflix just because they're shut out of a password. Maybe they will, but that to me does not sound like a method that is going to gigantically turn things around if they're facing this, and maybe this is just going to be a blip. Maybe Netflix is going to get through this, and we'll find continued growth if they get more into like live sports or different avenues. But it's an interesting story to look at regardless, and it's a big one today.
I believe one of the tactics they're looking into is better password protection and giving people the option, because I don't know about you, John, but like I'm a part of a group that shares an account. Yes, like many people do. Yeah, and I believe one of the options that they're going to try to implement is to provide like a smaller fee for people that want to continue doing that. And I think a lot of people are going to hear that and think that, well, I'm just going to drop my account. But for most people, I would say the convenience of simply paying maybe a discounted fee to continue to share an account for access to that entire library. I don't watch as much Netflix as I used to, but intermittently I'll find gems like F1 Drive to Survive, which I completely binged throughout my holiday.
Are you all up to date now?
I'm on season 4, like episode 5. So like I think I have like 5 more episodes to go.
Oh, wow, I'm only on season 2. That's incredible.
I'm trying to catch up so I can watch the real races.
I'm the same. You should
come over. We should have.
I'll bring my Nintendo 64 over.
Hell yeah, great! And we're that much closer to turning this into an F1 podcast. But intermittently, I'll still find these gems, and to me, it makes the subscription worth it.
Yeah. What are you watching on Netflix beyond Drive to Survive? Is there anything else you're watching?
It's that. It might be the occasional documentary. It might be the occasional trashy reality TV show. But it's just the convenience of having access to it that I don't really think about, dropping it.
I mean, that's the whole idea, is like they overwhelm you with so much that the idea of you discontinuing, it's obviously designed that you don't want to be left out, and it's constant new content rather than just one particular title or series that you're going to be attached to it. But we'll probably talk about this a bit more because Wai is going to be off on Friday, and Brandon Thurston will be on with me, and this is one of the topics we will discuss.
Only got me for 2 days, okay? And then I'm back out there.
Yes. We appreciate Brock's appearances whenever we can get him. But let's get into NXT 2.0. I know that Wai did not travel back to instantly sit down and watch NXT 2.0, though really would have been interesting, Wai, for you to sit down and learn about all these new names, all these characters that you left behind that are coming back, and you wouldn't even know who they are. We have now got... Zach Gibson and James Drake, not a giant change. They are now just Gibson and Drake, which sounds like a brand of guns you could order. Or I'll take a Gibson and a Drake.
Or a hard liquor, I would say.
Yes.
Guitars, maybe.
My Raul Mendoza is now Cruz del Toro, and my favorite is Casey Catanzaro. They did a video just online where she explained that everyone knows me as Casey Catanzaro, but now you get a chance to know the real me. And how do you get to know the real her? By her fake name, Katana Chance, who likes to drink straight whiskey and dance with Caden Carter. So she is now Katana Chance. What an explanation for this new name. And
credit to them for at least giving us an explanation. I mean, how many guys do we get to see called up to the main roster with just name changes with no reason?
Well, and that's what I was watching this show, trying to imagine the viewer that is maybe the thought is that, listen, our audience, they are aware of what is going on news-wise. They know what is going on. We are catering to that kind of fan. But if not, if you are someone that is just casually watching NXT and maybe you're not going to wrestling sites or following news, like you have Wes Lee on this show. And it's not just he's back on the show in a singles capacity. They're talking about how bad these last couple of weeks have been for him. They have been chaotic, and he's in this funk that he's got to get out of. And if I'm just the viewer, the last time I saw this guy, he had just won the tag titles, and they had set up a match. Now his partner is gone. And why is he, like, this is now part of the story, is that he is in this depression, and his career is at a standstill. And it's, like, do you think that I'm kind of overstating this, that the audience by and large knows what's going on, that they don't have to address it? Or do you think that this is a big hole if you're just a viewer that is watching this on a weekly basis and you're not inundated with wrestling news in your day-to-day?
I think it's always been a question of professional wrestling. I mean, as far back as I remember, me being a fan as a kid, seeing suddenly the Ultimate Warrior, leave the company when he was supposed to set to team with Macho Man Randy Savage against who was it? Razor Ramon and Ric Flair. I think when you're talking about NXT, you're probably talking about a bit more of a hardcore fan base that has stuck around at least up until this point, that is probably quite aware of what's going on. And it's, you also have to look at what the topic is, what the issue is that has forced the Nash Carter out of the company. There's really no great way to kind of spin that story.
I would expect, Way, that they just would have moved on. Instead, they are making that part of the story. Instead of just this guy is now in a singles role. Like, I would never expect them to address it, but they are. Like, that is now his character is getting over this loss of his partner and the tag titles being taken away. It's like they were drawing attention to it rather than moving on.
I think the idea is that you want to start some sort of down in the dump stories to set up a comeback for Wes Lee. And there again, you kind of have to just kind of gloss over the reason why he's down in the dumps and just get to the point where he's lost his championship, he's lost his tag team partner. And if you know the reason why, then great. If you don't know the reason why, well, maybe Google it and you can find out the reason. But I get the sense they just want to move on to the story and really kind of, worry about the people who might not be completely caught up a little bit later.
What if Elias had gone down to NXT and he is now Nash Carter?
I mean, they're both brunettes. I suppose you can, explain Nash Carter has really spent a lot of time in the gym, I suppose.
He's his brother.
Yeah.
Stash Carter.
Stash Carter. Wow, on 420. Perfect.
We also had some horrendous segments throughout the show involving Braun Breaker and Joe Gacy. Your reference to Ultimate Warrior came to mind as I was watching this. The all-time great wrestling trope of looking in the mirror and seeing an image that is not supposed to be there. I thought Braun Breaker looked like a goof throughout this entire episode, ending with the leap of faith, where he was shoved off of the riser out in the performance center, plunging to near death, and this is going to set up Joey Gacy's spring breakin'.
Did not even think about Joey Gacy. That is perfect. Yeah. It seems like this Joe Gacy character, they're really trying to find a way to turn him into a bit more nefarious and somewhat main event worthy level. And their idea of doing it is to step away from perhaps the woke gimmick and stepping into,
Look at this graphic. This is like the most plain but ridiculous graphic. Just the color, the look on their faces.
They seem to have turned him into more of a Chamber of Horrors type of goofy early 90s type of hostage taking, maniacally laughing, just generically evil madman. And it's. When we talk about NXT 2.0 again, everybody, and all you have to really look at is the Triple H interview. I mean, we're talking about reps. I'm going a lot easier on these guys because, this is not a great gimmick, not one that I can imagine him taking to the main roster with him. It just
Who, Joe Gacy?
Joe Gacy, yeah.
I actually could see this character going to the main roster. I actually could.
Sucks.
Yeah.
It's just such a generic, I don't know, toned down version of maybe what the Fiend was, plus so many others. But you're right. Maybe Vince would absolutely love this. But it's a chance to see how Joe Gacy will do in a main program, and it's another one for Braun to add number two.
Yeah, so the spring break-in special will be in 2 weeks on May the 3rd, and they've also announced Cameron Grimes defending the North American title against Carmelo Hayes and Solo Sikoa. And the last note on NXT was the NXT debut of Roxanne Perez, the former Roxy. We saw her on Level Up last week, and we got the origin story of Roxanne Perez, who grew up playing the WWE 2K video games, and now she is a living video game character. The gamer has come to the WWE and defeated JC Jane in her debut.
I thought she looked good. Like a bit of I think veteran experience is very helpful in a roster like this, and somebody who clearly have a lot of confidence in very early on. I listened to Braden and Davey last night talk about how this character is a bit too similar maybe to what Cora Jade is. And I think you're going to get a lot of this because you're getting a very young roster of people who dreamed of being a part of this company, and these are their real life stories. They've either grown up watching people or they've grown up playing video games, and it seems to be their at least I give them credit for coming up with like relatable ways of introducing these characters again versus the main roster where they're just out there, with something either very supernatural or non-existent at all.
It's actually brilliant because if she is working with a talent that is not as great in ring, and there's a screw up, that can be blamed on the glitches that she grew up as this is part of a wrestling match.
I don't know how much she played of 2K20, but sure, yeah, that would be her career mode.
Going back to Raw on Monday night, the show did 1,647,000 viewers, down 9%, and a .47, 615,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo from Showbuzz Daily and Brandon Thurston. That was down 13%. So now we are in the full swing of the NBA playoffs. There were 3 games going on Monday night, 2 of which were on TNT that finished number 1 and number 2, and then another on NBA TV. Raptors in Philadelphia. That series is not looking too good way, but they were second on the night.
Well, how are the Raptors doing?
They're down 2-0. Game 3 is tonight. Yes.
Ooh, ouch. Well, I mean, there's still plenty of chance.
Yes. So this was that was their competition, and I think you're going to see an impact. I think there's even going to be a larger effect on tonight's Dynamite. I think there's 4 games tonight airing, so it's going to be very, very competitive on the NBA front. But yes, Raw was down 15.5% in 18 to 34, and throughout the episode, they fell 19% in viewers and 12% in the demo, but still beating everything except for the NBA. So I would say, if you're finishing just behind the NBA, you have to look at that as strong as it's going to be during this period. They are not going to be topping cable when the NBA is running against them. Did you follow much programming? I'm hoping you say no, but did you check in on anything? Were you did you convince your wife that, hey, there's this lie detector test and a double commitment ceremony that I'd really like to see?
I did not, but I did follow. I follow the news and I follow like the podcasts, and so I was well aware of what was going on. I actually watched the both of those segments as right before we got into the show, and they were exactly what you would expect from sports entertainment. So if you like that sort of thing, you would have been fine with it. If you hate that sort of thing, you would have really hated it. I'll say, like, being removed from it, the best part was just hearing reactions to it, like from you, from Cino, from like just the internet, like going crazy over this sort of stuff. Yeah,
the fans in Buffalo, they got a gem, several of them on Monday night. This is always my favorite every month when the next King of Pro Wrestling match is coming up, and this time we have Taichi taking on Shingo Takagi. So it is a Toru Yano-less title match happening on Monday in Hiroshima. So the 2 options that have been presented and are being debated now on a Twitter poll, Taichi has suggested a 30 count match. In this match, multiple falls will see a cumulative count from the referee. The winner is the wrestler who can get a combined 30 count on their opponent. Strategy and stamina will come to the fore in this punishing match style. So a 30 count match. So if you get a 2 count, that goes to, this begs for graphics that we will need on the screen.
I would hope so. I I'm not completely confident that you might get them, but you're gonna have to do a bit of math, I guess. Maybe up to 30 is not that crazy, but
This could be a real challenge. Takagi, on the other hand, similar but different, has brought his own spin on a multiple falls match, suggesting a Takagi-style 3 falls match. In this match, the first to 3 falls is the winner, but rather than being best 3 out of 5, a competitor must get first a 1 count, then a 2 count, and then a 3 count. This will likely see a hard pace being set in the opening as both men vie to get the early 1 counts before will to win really comes to the fore for the 3rd fall. This is always my rule when it comes to match stipulations, is that if it takes longer than a sentence to explain, it's a bad stipulation for a wrestling match.
I'm willing to give the second one a chance. Of the two, I would definitely pick the second one too. But I mean, looking at the poll, it's a bit more even than maybe we think. I do think, like, okay, sometimes, like, what about the pure rules, John? You know, what about the Royal Rumble? Like, what about Survivor Series? What about War Games? You know, there are a lot of great wrestling, I guess, rule sets that have really accentuated the storytelling of a match. And to me, like, when they announced the King of Pro Wrestling Championship, like, one part of the idea is to, hey, like, exercise creativity in a company that has been kind of known for being very traditional and conservative. And I've been really disappointed that unfortunately, it's come in the form of, like, stupid rat cage stipulations and, I don't know, other bullshit stipulations that I mean really are not conducive to, I think, the art of professional wrestling storytelling. But this is easy enough, I would say. Okay, you go for a 1 count, you go for a 2 count, and then you go for a 3 count. That's pretty simple to explain.
I think the Takagi one is much better suited for a live audience to be interested in, and the viewer at home. The 30 count match, I cannot tell you how little interest I have in having to get to a 30 count of all numbers. That I just have no desire to see.
I think wrestling fans only have so much patience for counting. Okay, and I look at Suplex City as, like, okay, the crowds can probably count to 15. When you get past 20, come on, like, that's just, you're asking too much.
The other thing is, this kind of a match, it elicits the audience to count along, and they can't do that in New Japan at the moment as well.
Right.
Like, especially for a 30 count, like, the idea of getting the audience engaged where they are counting along with the referee would enhance the heat for the match, and you're not going to get that. So yes, I think the Taichi one is slightly ahead of the Takagi version. So that's happening on Monday. I can't promise I'll watch this match, but we'll see. If it's the Takagi one, I'll probably at least see it. 30 count, no thank you.
There's a curiosity either way, I would say.
Yeah, potentially. And then we have Dynamite tonight from Pittsburgh, where it seems like they are setting this show up to be the major homecoming for Britt Baker. They're encouraging people to bring their terrible towels, and Baker is taking on, someone in Danielle Camella that you are not going to have the audience behind. So this is the first appearance for her since losing to Thunder Rosa last month. So she has been off TV for a month. It just seems like she is going to be a huge part of tonight's show. I don't see this in the main event slot, but this will be a big part of the show tonight.
Yeah, I don't see it as a main event either. But, listen, like, we always talk about how in the second last quarter of any Rampage, there tends to be a dip and that tends to be where they bury the female wrestling portion of the show. I don't think you'll get any sort of dip for this particular episode. This crowd will probably be the hottest they'll be for the entire night if they decide to put that match in that slot. So it's, a great homecoming potentially for Britt Baker, and another big test for the former Vanessa Bourne.
And then the rest of the show has Dustin Rhodes against CM Punk, Wardlow against The Butcher, Hook is going to be a match against to be determined. And then we've got the 2 Owen Hart Foundation qualifying matches, the men's one being Jungle Boy and Kyle O'Reilly, which sounds terrific on paper. And what I presume will be the main event is the coffin match with Andrade El Idolo against Darby Allin. That should also be a pretty intense match for the blow off here. And, the prior coffin match that we saw involving Darby Allin, where we saw a coffin drop through the coffin.
Yeah, how are they going to top that? 2 coffins?
I don't know. Coffin drop off
doing
of
a coffin
ledge.
drop while in a coffin onto another coffin.
Oh my God, a coffin drop while in a coffin. That would be really hard to climb while in a coffin.
While Andrade is coffin.
Okay, Wai is back in
Sorry.
full force. He is back to full strength, everybody. And Tony Khan's big announcement tonight, the latest big announcement that there's been many ideas thrown out there. We've seen speculation of a combined show with New Japan that I think would be met very favorably. I mean, there's obviously... at any point, they have many different irons in the fire that they could go with here. But, it seems very plausible of like where you see everything with New Japan and AEW. That is inevitable that they do. You're kind of getting these combined shows right now with the New Japan Strong offerings, both from this past weekend and next month in Washington.
What can you confidently say it won't be the big announcement?
What won't be the big announcement?
I mean, meaning like, I think a lot of people are looking for concrete news about Ring of Honor, getting on TV, for instance. Could it be something about an over-the-top deal? Is it too soon for some of those things?
I think those are possibilities. I don't rule either of them out. Yeah, I always look at these ones as like what kind of an announcement is best suited for a announcement on your television in front of a live audience, and what is better suited for something that you announce online or in an interview setting or a press release that is more so a business move that you are making that an audience isn't necessarily going to jump up for joy with. You know what I mean? Like the announcement that we have a deal with New Japan World. Like that would not be something that I would be making on my show, for instance, because the fan there in the building, that's not going to really matter to them as a non-Japanese subscriber. But yeah, certainly the idea, obviously you want to have an announcement that's going to have the buzz factor to it that everyone is reacting to. So it's got to be something of a certain level, and it seems like these announcements, they're always just graded with such intensity about how big of an announcement it is when it's being used as like a ratings hook on a night where they clearly need it against the NBA. And we'll see if there is that interest for this announcement.
Well, let's say it is a joint New Japan show. Like, is that an announcement big enough? I think it would be big enough for, an AEW, like the type of audience that's watching this show, but big enough for somebody who watches on TNT. I mean, how many of those fans are there anymore that are just watching on TNT and don't necessarily partake in the rest? I don't know.
Yeah. If there's an accompanying angle or match, like you do have some of the, you've just done like several of these matches, and it's interesting to look at this relationship that if you were to announce, hey, we're doing a combined show and you're getting Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay, had you not just seen it, I think that gets a tremendous response. But, that's part of this relationship is like a give and take to it, that you have done these AEW New Japan matches and you're going to be doing several of them in Washington next month that you just set angles up for this past weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there you have it. That is all of the news. We will be back tonight at 10:05 p.m. Eastern time, right after Dynamite. But before we go, we do want to check in with the super chats that are just blowing up the screen.
Oh, I don't even have to remind you anymore. See, that's how seasoned this man is at this point. So thank you everybody for your super chats. As always, if you join us live here at youtube.com/postwrestling every day, 1 p.m. Eastern time, you have the chance to send some direct support to the channel in the form of these super chats. And you can also even ask a question. David says, can John Smile get any bigger?
No, it can't. This is the biggest it gets. Trust me. I was very happy to turn on the screen and see Wai.
I am very happy as well. So thank you everybody for the warm welcome, and thank you, John, as well. Brandon from New Jersey says, welcome back. No Gracie hoodie for the return. Shake my head. It is right here, Brandon. I shall say though.
Oh, I thought it was retired. This is a new like a cream colored sweater that you've got.
It's actually white. It's more
okay?
The color
It looks a little beige on this side. Okay.
Yeah, I did. It's not new. I just don't wear it as often. But I was kind of forced to because I left clothes in my. We stayed in like a little hotel, and I left stuff inside with the wardrobe, and I never do that. I check everything
They can send it to you
quickly. Yeah, but it's like it's an old shitty shirt with a stain on it. It's an old pair of pants with a belt that like none of my clothes are that expensive.
Yeah, I left an iPhone charger once in a hotel, and they did send it to me,
like free of charge.
No, I'm pretty sure they got everything out of me for that cross country
of course
mail.
Yeah, it's not worth it. So I kept this one though. Although I was like I'm due for new clothes. I know, Brandon. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for the criticism of my clothing. Kevin says, welcome back, Wai. John, I think you were onto something with the retro MMA reviews with Eric and Phil. Awesome episode yesterday. That is correct. Almost forgot to mention the latest edition of Rewind Away, John.
Yes, it is up there. This was a really fun show to go back and chat about, especially with like the different people we had involved. We had, Jason Hagholm was the one who chose this. So him and Eric, they were like in school at the time and kind of talking about like Kimbo Slice and how popular he was kind of outside of MMA circles. And then you have me and Phil that were like following this pretty closely at the time, and me like covering this stuff pretty much daily. So to go back, it was like a really interesting time period in MMA 14 years ago, and the intense analysis that came with MMA on CBS and catering to a very much a hardcore fan base that didn't look at Kimbo Slice as like you had that argument of like sport versus entertainment, and this show that you take Kimbo Slice out of it, they're probably not getting a second show. So anyway, we did a very extensive look, and with it being the season, a Easter egg at the end of the show.
Ooh, yes. To tell you the power of Kimbo Slice, my brother told me recently that he was watching Kimbo Slice matches. Like last week, he just suddenly asked me about Kimbo Slice. And this is years, okay, after the man has, unfortunately passed away. But, I mean, much less, like, when was the last time, like, he would have even fought? It's crazy.
Yeah,
like
it was like we're looking at 7 years ago that he fought. It was 7 years ago that he died, and he had just fought earlier that... It was the year before... Was it that year? I think it was that year he fought the Dada 5000. But I mean, it's one thing to go back and you can read about Kimbo and you can watch his fights, but to live through it, to understand how popular he was. And it wasn't just with Elite XC, but later when he went to the UFC and a taped fight with Roy Nelson did the amount of viewership that it did on Spike. And he had a giant impact for just the two fights where he was in UFC. And then goes off to do boxing and is kind of out of the spotlight, and comes back for another popularity boom with Bellator. Like, his fights were the biggest in terms of viewership in the history of Bellator's promotion, and it did receive especially scrutiny for the Dada 5000 fight because of the effects of the aftermath of that fight, especially for Dada's health and Kimbo as well. But it was, he was just a phenomenon. There's nothing you can state more so than that. A huge phenomenon that a loss did not hurt his drawing ability. He was just a fascinating figure that gravitated audiences to him.
And if he had been around during this Triller era, I mean, I don't think there'd be any criticism. Like,
10 years ago, he would have been the central piece for a Triller promotion. Absolutely. Like, a Jake Paul or a Kimbo Slice like that.
Jake Paul versus Kimbo Slice.
Weight be damned. I mean, they could, I'm sure, find ways to do it in the right state. But yeah, it's an interesting look back to 2008. So that is up there if you're a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. So we've got Rewind to Dynamite tonight, and then Thursday you are going to be back with the Wellness Policy, correct? It is the 421 edition.
It is the 421 edition with me, Jordan Goodman, and Damian Abraham himself, a man who knows a thing or two, not just about punk music, not just about professional wrestling, but about cannabis. And that is what we will be focusing the episode on. So it's a very interesting topic. It's one that I know WWE is very happy to capitalize on these days with the release of the latest RK Bro shirt. I don't know if you saw it, John.
Yes.
RK Bro 420.
Yeah.
Huh?
Think of all the royalties that this could have provided for talent for the pot tax. Remember?
Oh, that is correct. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's one that I know it will be very easy to conduct between, Jordan and Damian and the rest of the patrons at the Post Wrestling Cafe. So join us for that 3:00 tomorrow if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron. One last super chat to get to before we get out of here from MJ from NJ, who says, who bought $7 million worth of WWE stock today? Tony, Elon, or Cameron Grimes? Is the stock, is it a particularly noteworthy day of WWE stock right now?
Not that I've been following here. I think Elon's busy with other stocks, so I don't know if he's getting around to WWE. But maybe Elon Musk will start tweeting about issues he has with WWE.
You know, how much more entertaining can you get? What a marriage made in heaven between Elon Musk and hey, something I've noticed in Southern California, like every third car is a Tesla.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Have you ever driven a Tesla?
No, I got into one. Actually, during like a elf night.
Oh, that's right. We
walked
both did. Yeah.
Yeah, we randomly.
That could have been the end of us, for all we
stepped
know.
in.
Anyway, another story for another day. But that is going to wrap things up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll chat with you tonight, right after AEW Dynamite and the giant announcement. And thank you, Simon James, for the coffee refill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye.